go to the hotline and bring in a guy who probably on the short list of most excited about the Texas high school football playoffs being here. We are joined by the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, the great Craig Way. Craig, is it fair to say that this is essentially the beginning of the holiday season for you?
Oh, that's a good way to put it. I like that. The holiday season, the holiday hustle and bustle begins, and it begins with the hustle and bustle of by-district play. You know, I asked, had Todd Dodge on my show this morning, the Westlake coach, and I asked him, I said, look, I know that you've been asked many times, like after you had the 79-1 run, whatever, in the state championships, and you got asked by several people, myself probably included somewhere along the line, about does it ever get old winning a state title? And the obvious answer obviously is no. But I said, I would imagine the same holds true for playoff games, because you're going to win more playoff games in your life by sheer math than you will state championships, because you got to win 5 even to get to the state title game. So the better question is, does it ever become mundane or routine for a by-district playoff game when you're playing at home and you're pretty solidly favored to win and all that stuff? And he said it better not, because those are the times when you hear of the shocking upsets or the surprising upsets. And he said, and if we were to lose to Schertz Clemens, it wouldn't be a shocker.
No.
It might be a surprise to some. He said, but that's a good football team. So, you know, that's the perspective of a guy who's got a lot of skins on the wall. So obviously I'm going to be excited from the perspective, like you are, Ted, of looking at it from the outside, and let's get the brackets going and start messing up those brackets this week.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. Is that Westlake's a favorite over Schertz Clemens? I don't think that's necessarily going out there on a limb, but that is, to me, the story of this first round of the playoffs. Is there's usually in the first round of the playoffs you gotta kind of sift a little bit, because with 4 teams making the playoffs, there are going to be your fair share of blowouts and mismatches, but I think beyond the kind of top tier of really good games, Pearland Dickinson springs to mind, a few others that are really good, Poteet and College Station. But beyond that, you've got this other layer of games where there's a favorite, but you just want to keep a side eye on it. You want to keep it in your periphery, because it could get a little bit hairy should one thing go wrong.
Hey, I'll give you one along those lines. See if you agree with this, Ted. And it involves the defending state champion. And every year I think we do this, where we say which defending state champion might have the most difficulty defending its title, or at least the most difficulty in the by-district round. And for me, that's Cy-Fair. I mean, against Houston-Lamar in the first round, that's what I'm keeping an eye on. Anyway, like you say, a side eye on, as well as for that one, I think probably more so than any of the other defending state champions, although College Station may get a challenge in round 1 for Poteet.
Rockdale as well, taking on Grandview.
Oh yeah, well yep, absolutely.
I think you're right. I think
agree with you there.
There's probably 3 state champions that you would put on different, perhaps, levels of upset alert heading into the by-district round. So I'm really interested from your perspective on the games that you think are the ones that are going to end up having the biggest impact. Because inevitably there are some games that, for example, Allen is going to take on, I believe, Rowlett, and they are going to be relatively heavy favorites over Rowlett. Nobody really expects them to win that game. But at the same time, from a reasonable perspective, when you look across the state, are there 1 or 2 games that you say, all right, that's going to end up shaping things in a big way? I'll give you a perfect example from last year. Last year, if you remember, Rockdale and Malakoff met in the first round. And I remember us sitting here and thinking, all right, the winner of that game could make a run. Is there 1 or 2 of those games that spring to mind for you that you think could really have a big shaping influence on what the rest of the playoffs look like?
I'd have to think about, that's a great question. And first of all, I guess we could do the old card trick thing about pick a card, any card, go to 6A Division I Region 3, pick a game, any game, because every week is going to be a suicide run in throughout at least through the first 4 weeks. Think about this, Ted. the survivor of Region 3, and I don't necessarily rubber stamp North Shore as yeah, they're definitely cruising, only because of the grind it takes on you to get through it. So, but let's say even if they do, whoever survives Region 3, 6A, D1 is going to be, I know this sounds preposterous, but they're almost going to be breathing a sigh of relief when they get to the Final Four at not having to face, another Houston school. And that's with the full knowledge that your semifinal opponent could well be Converse Judson or even Lake Travis. And yet surviving that gauntlet of 6A, D1, Region 3, without question in my mind, is the toughest 4-week run for any team of the 16 in the pod to survive. I think it's 6A, D1.
I think you're absolutely spot on that one. And to me, basically, there's only one team that can feel like, okay, we should feel okay about getting past this game, and that would be Jersey Village taking on Houston Chavez. That's probably the only one that I'd be like, okay, I feel pretty good about that one happening. But the rest of them, I mean, I'll just say this, and I mentioned this on the podcast with Matt Stepp we just did. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if you're Katy and you're playing Fort Bend Travis this week, that is not a walkover. And I'm not saying they're going to lose this game, but I'm saying that there are these games where, to me, it's not. There is a favorite like that one, like Katy, but the team on the other side, if that other team slips up a couple of times, if they slip up once, then suddenly it's a ball game into the fourth quarter and anything happens.
There's a matchup that when there's matchups like that, Tep, that's where I do default to the coaching matchup and the pedigree of the coaches. Mm-hmm. And I'm not one of those people that lives and dies with, he's a great coach, so therefore they win, blah, blah, blah. Coaches will tell you that great players make them great coaches. Any successful coach. And that includes Gary Joseph at Katy. Mm-hmm. That said, he's the kind of guy who can kind of give his team that little extra oomph about making sure they take it seriously enough, that they're ready to go, that they're emotionally and mentally prepared to get pushed in even the by-district round. He's one of those kinds of coaches who can get his team mentally prepared to be ready for that. And they're going to need to be, because I agree with you. That's not one to be taken lightly, for sure.
And if they get past that, they're probably playing Jersey Village in the second round, which, my goodness. Okay.
We're talking. Then it really gets interesting. By the way, and this is completely off that particular topic, but you're in the Metroplex. See if you can help me with this. How is it, and I haven't heard an explanation. You may already know the answer, or it may have been published up there or something, but it hadn't filtrated down to the state capitol. How is it that the only by-district matchup in all of 6A, Division I or Division II, not to be being played in a home stadium is Louisville against Keller? They're playing in Denton. Any reason why?
I have no idea. I haven't heard it.
It's the only one, and I think there's only one in 5A. I'd have to look at it, but I know it's the only one in 6A. Is that Louisville-Keller game? They're playing at C.H. Collins, and then I thought, why? Why is that game not at Max Goldsmith?
I don't know.
And maybe it's a facility thing. Maybe they'd already made plans to rip out the field turf or something. I don't know, but I just was curious about that. I didn't know if that was common knowledge up there as to why it wasn't happening there. And when Louisville, as the top seed in D1, would be entitled to a home game in the by-district round.
I don't know. I'm going to have to make a couple phone calls. We'll figure that out.
I've texted Stepp right now.
There you go.
And he's in the other room, so we might get an answer.
Stepp says. We're talking with Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF Today. All right, normally this would be the time of the show where I give you 3 games and make you choose, but I'm gonna trick things up a little bit.
Okay.
It's 8 games.
From how many? 8?
From 4A and below, there's only, if you can only pay attention, you can only buy season tickets to one bracket. 4A and below, which bracket are you buying season tickets on?
Oh, just on any classification bracket?
Yes, any classification bracket.
Well, it's one of two. It's either 4AD1 or 2AD1.
Yep, probably true.
It's probably 4AD1 or 2, and probably 4AD1. With there are plenty. We keep saying this every year when Carthage comes up against contenders, but this year more than any other, there's enough quality depth in contenders to, even if they don't take out Carthage in an earlier round, could weaken them enough to where another team getting through might ultimately take them down. Don't know that it'll happen, and I feel about Carthage, you know how I feel about Carthage the same way I feel about Allen. Until they lose,
yep.
Until they in one of that deal, I'm not going to not vote them number one. I'm not going to not think they're the best team in their division, in their classification, in the state. Having said that, between Argyle and La Vega and Midlothian Heritage and Stephenville and other ones, in 481, there are teams that are good enough, if things fall right and they execute pretty well in the game, that could beat them. So there might be more suspense in that one. 2A Division I also, but we can say that about 2AD1 almost every year. Almost to the point where no pairing surprises me when the two that reach the final. And then you add to that the drama of the fact that Mart is not defending its 2A Division I title because they're in the 2AD2 bracket, and that could be fun if you wind up with a Mart Wellington state championship pairing. So, yeah, there could be a lot of fun out of all of that.
One last question for Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. We just announced the 25 semifinalists for the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year award. That is something that is we've talked about. It gives us great pain because there's I think we estimate there's probably about 150 players who are worthy of being semifinalists for Mr. Texas Football. I reserve the right to ask you this question again down the road, but right now, we're at the end of the regular season. If you had a vote for the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year award, who would it go to?
I would not cast it right now.
Okay.
That's what I would not cast it right now because let me ask you this, Ted.
Yeah.
You sent me the preliminary list, and I liked virtually everybody on the list. I said you'd be hard pressed to say, hey, you left so and so off, or are you really sure that so and so belongs on that list? And the only exceptions I ever make in that is if a kid who posts really good numbers, but he misses several weeks of the season or a few games due to injury, while somebody else continues to post great numbers week after week after week after week. And here's where I'm going with this. I've seen Garrett Wilson down here look absolutely spectacular. But Garrett hasn't been able to play all of the games because he's been hurt. Now, if he's ready to go, and Hank Carter isn't sure that he'll be ready to go on Friday against Smithson Valley, but if he is and he has a good playoff run, then he's back on track with that kind of thing. That's an example of what I mean. That's not specifically because of that. That's an example. By the way, side note on that, with Lake Travis, Sean Brown-Nixon's back. He came back. They got him a few carries last week. If he is the old Sean Brown-Nixon, Lake Travis has rediscovered its running game just in time for the postseason.
Just in time for the postseason. Some of the most magical words I've heard. Yes, Max Thompson.
The answer is Louisville. Both teams, Louisville and Keller, both finished second in district, neutral site.
Ah.
So there you go.
Okay.
That is straight from Matt Stepp.
Okay.
I guess
all right. Second in district, but Louisville's a D1 top seed, though, right?
Right, but I think I'm guessing it's because of the district tiebreakers. If I had to wager.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
He's Craig Way. We finally found something about high school football he didn't know off the top of his head. We did it.
We did it. That's why I deferred to you.
We can end the show. We did it.
And that's why we all deferred to Stepp.
He is the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. Follow him on Twitter at CraigWay1 and listen to his dulcet tones calling both Texas basketball and Texas football this week. And we're without you again this week, right?
Yeah, but I think we're doing one of those goofy little video chat things. I'm not going to be on a bus, but you'll be able to, I'll have my face pressed to a screen, so I will be popping on with you and Renner on Friday.
It's better than nothing. Thanks a lot, Craig.
All right, thanks, guys.
There he goes. Craig Way, the Texas High School Ball Hall of Famer. Yeah, that's really. I think he's right because I know you have a love affair with 481.
It's the best.
That's your number one.
It's the best bracket. I'm every year. If that's my season ticket, that's it. 481 is the best bracket. Don't at me.
I just wanted. I want to make sure we do small school because I want to give some small school some love. 281's fun, but 281 feels like it's like there's a big gravitational pull going towards Region 4.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
The depth isn't the same in any of those brackets, really, unless it's just a wide open year, which it is in 482.
381's in that mix too.
381's in that mix, but the difference is 481 is both full of quality and depth.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you could go 12 deep, and you could probably talk me into 12 teams that could win the state championship, even though we're probably only talking about 5 or 6.
Probably true.
But I think you could talk me into a scenario where 12 of them make it, and like I said, it's about the quality of the players. It's the small town feel with bigger rosters, and it's the schematic chess games. You're going to get wing tee, you're going to get slot tee, but you're also going to get wide open spread. You're going to get flex. I mean, you're going to get everything in that bracket. It's my favorite.